Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Life Behind the Trig podcast. This evening we have myself, Kyle Randalls, and Sinclair Patience as your hosts. And joining us we have John Hugh MacLeod. John is a stalwart of the games. He has previously won the Under-25 League at Braemar. He won Braemar games. He's came through that as most of the Scottish heavies we've spoken to have. You start off as an 18-year-old to your 25-year-old. You compete through there. John also has a fair CV of on-the-road games. He's been to Japan, he's been to New Zealand, he was recently in Florida with me. So, John, without further ado, thank you for coming on.
Hi Kyle, hi Sinclair, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so John, we normally just start off with a simple question, which is, how did you, John Hugh MacLeod, get into the games?
Well, Kyle, I started off at my local games actually, Ascent in Lochimber. Actually, the first year I didn't even get to throw because they had about 10 people going to be throwing at the game, so they did a qualifier, and I actually didn't throw far enough. So, cut a long story short, I trained quite hard for the next year, and then I managed to get in, and then ever since I've kind of managed to crack on.
In your first year, did you only do the one games in your first year, your local one, or did you spread out a bit?
No, I was just at the one. I was 17, so I was probably like 6'2" and about 13 stone. So there's just zero power there. So I eventually got a bit bigger through age and a bit of training and that. Like the next year, I trained a bit, and I think that first year I only put like 30 foot or something. So it just gives you an idea of what's possible if you put your mind to it, that you can do a bit better, and then it should be an example for anyone, sort of
thing. Your second year in the games, John, you said you went away and you trained a bit. When you came back, did you do a few more games, or was it still just your local one?
Yeah, well, so I did my local one, and I did Dornoch. I think Sinclair was there.
Hey John, Sinclair. I was going to say, I think I remember meeting you pretty early on in my games career, but then we kind of came up over the last 10, 15 years from there. But was that maybe your second year in the games at Dornoch?
Yeah, I think. Well, that would be. Yeah, I think so. I think I did Dornoch and I did Invercarron as well. So I did three of them. That was all the Sutherland games that I could get in as a local. I
was going to say Sutherland games are quite good in that they do run. Usually in the morning, there's events for the locals, and you tend to get local and novice throwers. So there's the kind of stalwarts that turn up year after year just to compete that day, and then they finish at 12 o'clock and they're off to the beer tent.
Is that similar to Invercarron? They've got a novice event, don't they?
Yeah, there's Durness as well has locals, and I forget where else. I think that's it. So I think there's 4 games and Ascent as well. So there's a few games that you can if you're local, but the locals have been kind of struggling recently for what reason I don't know. The same with under 25s. There's not that many throwers coming through just now. I don't know what is it, just a phase or something, or and then you'll have 10, 15 guys in 2 or 3 years time. I don't know.
I think it just comes in cycles. Like at times they need throwers to look up to, and obviously over the last number of years there've been a good few foreign throwers sort of dominating the circuit at the very top level. So that's quite tough to aspire to. Whereas if you've got someone a bit closer to home, and there's Scottish throwers doing well, as a local young boy, I think that's probably more relatable.
Definitely. There's the likes of Alistair Murray, Jason Young. Who else would have been there? Ian Mackay. There's quite a few North throwers going around at that point to sort of aspire to.
Yeah, definitely. I always remember coming up there, 100 foot in the light hammer, whether it was with spikes or no spikes, was what you were kind of aiming for, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, so kind of I was still doing I'm still very much involved with the local games, but I started doing the under 25s, and actually, I'll just go into this as well. I was at Invercarron. I actually got Hugh Murray's number, the throws coach, from Jim Sandeman actually. And so when I was down in Glasgow, I actually went and started training with Hugh. So he had Neil Elliott and Gary Hagan and Willie Faulkner. So we're training with that guys for the shot put, which helped me a lot. So and also,
Hugh's the national Scottish athletics throws coach, wasn't he?
yeah. So I mean, I was throwing like 10 meters. So I think by the time I finished, I was throwing 12 or that. Well, and I went on to putt over 14. So I definitely took something from it. So
did you putt further? Did you ever do any amateur shot put, or have you putt further at Highland Games?
no, I've putt further at Highland Games. I think like 12.60 is my best out of a circle. But I mean, I would have been capable of a lot more than that. It's just when you're not training like that all the time. I think 48.6 is my best with it.
You've always played about a wee bit, haven't you, with your technique? Like I've seen you do almost full rotation, half full rotation, front on. What have you thrown furthest with?
Well, that kind of modified full rotation, I think that was what I threw the 48.6 with in it. I think that's a full rotation throw is going to give you your best throw in the shot put because you can get so much more torque and separation in. But it's so difficult unless you're training it a lot. I find the front on a lot more reliable, and with a heavy stone, the front on's a lot better as well.
Front on or a glide. We obviously had Scott Ryder on a few weeks ago now, and he's come from a strong athletics background, and he was kind of saying to train the full rotation. But most throwers that you'll speak to, guys like Ryan Vieira, who also came from an athletics background, he'd kind of advocate the modified South African just because it's a bit more consistent. Because obviously in the games you've got different implements, different ground, different weather. So I think it's consistency that you're looking for. But what year was that? I remember in Nairn, there's an open Nairn stone, and you can throw it whatever way you want. I think you can even throw it over your head backwards if you like. But I'm sure it's close to 17 pound, and I'm sure I remember you throwing it over 47 foot. I think.
Yeah, that was 2011, so it was thrown quite well that year.
Yeah.
So I was with that kind of modified rotation. It kind of, you need to practice a lot, and that's what helped. I mean, that's why like Scott Ryder doing his full rotation. He's so consistent all the time, no matter what the weather's like.
Yeah, he's just got so many reps under his belt. It's going to be difficult for anyone coming into the Highland Games to have that level of experience, I think.
Yeah, but, definitely.
You're pretty steady across the board, though, with your events. What tends to be your favourite Highland Games event?
Well, there was a time when I was throwing light hammer quite well, so I like throwing that at one point. But again, it's one of that things when you're not training it quite as much as you'd like. I think hammer's one of the ones that's worse affected. I don't know what you think, Kyle. You've obviously been quite consistent with your hammer over the last 2 years. Do you find that if you miss training it, it goes, or is it always there?
I tore my stomach. I think it was 2016, 2017, and see now the first 2-3 sessions after the winter, I go out and I actually throw the hammer. All I can say is the phrase "squeaky bum time." I'm basically just sitting and I'm terrified at happening again because it's the weirdest feeling ever. It was the middle of a heavy hammer throw and it just went ping, and for some stupid reason I tried to hold on to it and deliver it, so I did a full swing with a torn stomach. So I always find the first few sessions back I'm always a bit rusty, and then the distance just sort of gradually adds on. But
you're just tickling an ab strain, Kyle.
Absolutely, yeah. It's tickling the injury. But I found my best year for hammer distance was 2016. I think I threw 149.11, never 150. And I think I was 124 or 125 with a heavy. And then every year since, I've not really reached those heights. I've been close with a heavy, but I've been more consistent overall. So yeah, I mean, my favourite event's obviously the hammer.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching it and I enjoy throwing it. But yeah, it's like everything in life. When it's going well, it's the best thing in the world. When it's not,
Yeah,
it's just a headache.
I'd
Yeah,
say, Kyle,
definitely.
that so John, you sort of mentioned that's maybe one of your favourite events.
Yeah, when I'm throwing it well, I'm not
Yeah,
normally.
you've probably got quite a traditional technique in the hammer. You trained a lot with Bruce Aitken, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean and when you're training with someone like Bruce, that even just watching them makes you think, oh, that's what I need to be doing, sort of thing. So it's no surprise that when I'm not been training with Bruce, that it's kind of gone down. But
Yeah.
I'm sure if I got back in a kind of a decent routine of throwing it, it would come back up. And
Kyle, where did you sort of pick your technique up? Was it just from watching professional throwers, or did you go into your own kind of groove with things with the hammer? Because that's obviously your strongest event. But what got you there?
I mean, I first, I probably was 14, 15, right? Maybe even younger. But Willie had said to me, happy to coach you, but I'm gonna ask you to throw the Scots hammer. And I was, oh, what's that? So I went out and I remember the first time I threw it, I think I was like 14. I'm going to say 14, 15. I think I threw like 100 feet and that was with a 16. And he just said we're going to throw it once a week, just basically periodically. So I continued throwing it once a week and obviously it grew into that. But Willie was an avid throw it faster, harder and sort of stronger. That was the approach. But the hammer, I tend to try and think of a winding rhythm, so slow wind, faster wind, and then just flat out, rather than you see some throwers are just wham, wham, wham.
yeah,
And I just try and lean back with it and just sort of heave it at the end. But I remember Lorne saying to me, sort of laughing, Lorne Coulthard, friend who's not sure, probably one of the best Scottish athletes in recent years. He'd said to me, I could so easily add 10 foot to your hammer. And I was like, oh, how? He goes, not telling you.
Yeah, Lauren loves that, and so does Stephen King. So many times I've been throwing, especially with the hammer, Lauren will just be sitting with his arms folded, chuckling. Stephen King will do exactly the same thing. I could add 15 foot to that straight away. Ah, great, thanks, Stephen. What do I need to do? I'm not telling you.
I don't know how you throw as far as you do, Sinclair.
What's wrong with my hammer technique?
I can't believe that somebody sticks their heels right to the trig and rips it like you do. It was so far.
I think my swings are all right. I think it's just that final swing.
Oh, it's very,
Do you think it's
very
fair to say that
impressive.
you owe your success to your NBA vest?
Yeah, well, it's definitely something to do with the Chicago Bulls. That 2016, I think it's 235, and I wore the Bulls vest at every game. I might need to get one for 2021.
Maybe it's the extra static it was causing.
What's that?
Maybe it's the extra static it was causing. Gave you a bit of extra.
I don't think that would go down too well now with the shift towards traditional kilt hose.
I know.
But John, throughout your we'll call it a career. You always feel weird calling your throwing times careers. But throughout your career, John, what are your standout memories or moments for you personally?
Well, in 2011, I've already mentioned that before. I was throwing well, and then at my local games, the Ascent games, I think I put 47, 39, 9 in the heavy putt. I did 134, 9 in the light. I don't know what happened that day, but I went ahead of Rusty Price was here. I don't know if you remember, he was a SGA world champion that year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's throwing well, isn't he?
So I went ahead of him. I couldn't believe it. I don't know what happened. And then
Did you stay ahead of him?
No, this was I was going to say. Then he came back, and I was like, oh. So it was great feeling just getting up there and in amongst it sort of thing. When you're no used to that, and
It gives you confidence, that doesn't it? Like even if it's in one games, if you have an event where you're kind of in the mix, top two, top three, it gives you confidence for the whole season.
Yeah, definitely. And then when you hear the crowds cheering as well, going, whoa, I'm not really used to that now, generally. So that was quite good. And also last year, I managed to toss the qualifying caber at Inverary at the World Championships. So I'm sure it's not the biggest qualifying caber they've ever had, but when you've had trouble with your caber and you manage to toss it, it's a great feeling.
It's a good showing on a day where there was 23 athletes.
Yeah. So I was quite pleased with that. Especially the year before, Stephen actually pointed out what I was doing wrong, and then the very next games,
Did you laugh at you whilst I told you?
No, he told me what I was doing wrong. So I must be more favourite than you two boys.
Definitely.
So it was good. So it's just basic. It just said to leave it longer because I was trying to pull it too quickly, sort of thing. So it just made all the difference.
It's usually the opposite advice that people are given. You're pulling it too late.
Yeah, but I mean that worked for me, and it's just what you've got. It's just that, and that's the other thing with coaching. I mean, you can know everything what's going on, but if you can't tell people what they're doing wrong in a way that they understand, that's what makes a massive difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think just small little tips like that can make such a big difference, and you can be out in a field for hours on your own, trying to get things right, and then someone will come and give you one little tip, which makes a huge difference.
Oh, I mean, they say about getting reps in your throwing, but if you're getting lots of reps in and you're throwing wrong, it's kind of no use either. So when you're training, you've got to be trained with a purpose of what you're doing. You need to pick, say, 3 things what you're trying to do, and work on that. You can't work on every aspect.
No, exactly. You've got to break things down. That's two good moments. What about your big win at Braemar in 2009?
Well, it's an interesting story. This 2009 at Braemar, I'd hurt my back a couple of weeks before and spent all the time getting it better and everything, making sure I was fit for it. And the reigning world amateur champion, he was also going to be there as well. So I was right up for it. I watched the film Taken. That film with Liam Neeson. So I was extra motivated. I managed to get a win, beating the world amateur champion of Sinclair Patience. Even though he looked pretty tired, having coming off the plane, because I think it was just the week before. So that was pretty good. You can always say that we won at Braemar, but don't have to mention it was under 25s. But no, that was good.
Doesn't matter. I don't think like Kyle said at the start. So many good throwers have come up through the under 25s, and to win the overall at Braemar is always a big thing, whether it's under 25s or open.
Yeah, I definitely happy with that, and even it's a great place to throw at Braemar. I mean, we sometimes know the best with all the kind of, there's a lot of people there that day, officials and security and that kind of thing. So, but it's still a special place, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of history. What are some of the most impressive things you've seen at the games? So you've obviously mentioned what your kind of top moments are, but what are some of the more impressive things that you've actually seen?
Well, when was it? 2007, maybe? It was Bruce Robb throwing 17 at the weight with the bar in Inverness.
Oh, I remember that.
I mean, that was. You were there, like Kyle, I think, were you?
That was one of my first games as like a proper. In fact, son, that would have been one of my first games up north. Because it was. I
remember, yeah.
It was the World Champs mixed with the World Masters at Inverness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, because I'm pretty sure I was throwing like a 28-pound weight for height, and I think I got up to about 23 or 24 feet, and they were kind of like, let's just leave it there. And then I immediately turned around and saw Bruce throwing like 17 or whatever it was. Was it 16-6 or 17?
No, 17.
17,
I've got a video of it.
The second I finished, I turned around and I saw him throwing that, and I thought, wow.
was so one of the most impressive throws I've seen, and especially with being Scottish as well is because obviously 17-foot weight throwing from a Scot isn't very common, so it was pretty impressive. Like,
Yeah, really impressed, especially with a knockoff bar.
oh yeah, and it was well over, and the throwers that were there as well. Had Kirill there. He was throwing the weight with the bar big then as well.
Yeah. I think that was Gregor Edmonds won Inverness
Yes,
or Webster
that
Worlds
was
that year. Yeah,
that was that. Yeah, that was that year.
that was always
Um,
so. Everyone always said Gregor won the world championship, but he didn't win an event. I think he was just consistently top 3. So which shows that you don't necessarily need to be winning events. You just need to be consistent across the board.
yeah, definitely. Also, I don't know where you. I don't know were you there, Sinclair, when Bruce Aitken threw 133 in the heavy hammer at Cornhill.
Yeah, I was there that year.
We're all standing out on the field. I don't know. You're just expecting to go a normal heavy hammer distance, and then it went over everyone. And I remember Murray Gunn next to me going, "Oh, it's incredible that." I think it's 21 pounder or something like that, but it's still a massive throw considering what the record was before.
Is there not something funny about the hammers at Cornhill? Because I've only been once or twice, and I can remember going one year, right, and I threw like in the light, which is a horrible hammer. I think I threw like 137 or something, and then the next year I came back in the program, they had my throw in as 187. But I can remember looking at the heavy hammer record, and I thought, well, holy shit.
Yeah, the light hammer's heavy and the heavy hammer's light.
So it makes up.
Yeah, they even out, but still, even if it's 21 pound, that's still a massive throw.
Yeah, definitely. The other one is a certain 2009 World Amateur Champion, Sinclair Patience throwing 90 foot at Drumtochty.
90 foot, nearly took Jeff Cape's record.
Oh.
When that was a big throw that day.
Yeah, it was a big throw, and again, we don't know. Like, I assume it must have been a little bit light, but I think on the day, there were some good throwers there. Bruce Robb was there, Craig Sinclair was there, and I think the closest throw was about 85 foot. So to throw 95 foot up, it might have been 86, but still 4 or 5 foot up on strong competition. I still think it was a good throw. The furthest I've ever thrown since has been, I've had an 85 foot and an 86 foot. I've not been close to 90 again, so I'd love to, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, 90 foot is an okay heavy hammer throw. You know what I mean? It's quite impressive when you put it in perspective.
Oh
yeah,
definitely.
That winter, I just moved home, I think, from university, and my dad had got me doing hundreds of line drills outside the house. Just literally sets of like 8 turns for 5 sets, and I didn't feel like they were working because my first few games I came out and I was throwing like maybe 79s, and I was kind of thinking, what was the point in that? It's not done anything. But then towards the mid to end of that season, I started throwing the weight over 80 a fair bit. So I think they do make a difference. I've not done as many since. I had a thing called labyrinthitis, which like affects your balance. It was a horrible thing. I had it for a good sort of week. I couldn't move much, to be honest. I was struggling. So whenever I do those types of kind of high rep turns, I struggle a bit for a few hours after now. So I tend to kind of stay away from them and prefer just warming up with a good number of 1 turns before going into full throws.
In terms of impressive throws I've seen, I find it hard to pinpoint one, but see watching Scott Ryder throw the 28 weight for distance. I don't know what it is. Yeah. It's so slick, and at the end there's just this acceleration and a boom. And obviously I've witnessed Scott throwing high 80s multiple times. I find it hard to honestly pinpoint a single games. But
Scott,
he's done it well.
I think one of the most impressive things is if you see like still frames of Scott's 28, both feet are well in the air, but he manages to get them down and planted, and he's still working on the weight for a long, long time. Like if you saw a photo of him with his feet in the air, you would say, nah, he's never going to get them down. He's not going to throw far, but he seems to still be able to get his feet down at the front and work on weight for a big finish.
If you notice that, like, so he's on the weight at the end.
Yeah.
Lucas does that the best with the linear shot put. He's got his hit. All the kind of experienced athletes, that come from athletics, they can keep on the weight or whatever with their both feet in the ground and they're still on the implement. That's what makes the difference, I think.
Yeah, everything going into the finish, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like I also need to mention Burger Lambrex at Crieff with both putts. Some of the most insane putting I've ever witnessed at Highland Games firsthand.
60 foot,
yeah.
Oh, comfortable. And then I believe he fouled. I think it was a heavy putt record. He just fouled it, but he pretty much smashed it. It was a good few inches, a good foot or so past it, but he just couldn't keep it in.
There was another guy with Gregor at Braemar one time. I can't remember his name now. He was a shot putter. I think he broke the under 25s, and then I think he went for Brian Oldfield's record. Is it Brian Oldfield that has it or Capes that has it?
Garrett Johnston.
Yes, aye.
Yeah, I remember.
He was very impressive.
Yeah,
to watch.
Just the snap in the finish. Like when you see these guys that putt over 20 metres, it's a totally different thing. Like you don't see that at games week in, week out. And when they do turn up, it's pretty impressive to watch. Even guys that are putting sort of 19 metres. Do you remember Damien Birkenhead?
Yeah, he's a very good athlete, I thought. He's probably one of the most impressive, aye.
And I think in 2014 he came over to the Commonwealth Games and he did about 4 or 5 Highland Games, and he took records, I'm sure, in Skye and Strathpeffer, and they weren't well, they were big throws. I think they were close to 60 foot. They weren't probably what you'd expect, but things are different when you've been specialised, just training for athletics, and then you come onto grass. It's different, but I was impressed watching him do a modified South African as well, and it just looked so simple, but the pop that he got at the end was incredible.
So it was, when I was at New Zealand, there was at Hororata Games. Dave Coulthard, young Dave Coulthard, he was there as well, and Tom Walsh was there.
Oh yeah,
he was throwing. I think he just won the World Indoor that year, so he was, he's 22 meters. And he's been near 23 metres last year, wasn't he? I mean, see them, it's just a different thing, these guys throwing.
So dynamic.
He didn't look like Damien Birkenhead, for example, when he was there, you're thinking he's like a really impressive athlete, but Tom Walsh didn't look, well, he was kind of like the same build as you, Sinclair. But I mean, that just shows how specialist he is, and he's obviously very strong as well.
I like how you said that Damien Birkenhead really looked like an athlete. Tom Walsh.
No. I mean, not. He just looked like a normal guy, sort of thing.
Yeah.
A normal. No,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. He doesn't necessarily look like a monster like some of these guys.
Yeah. So. I mean, no disrespect there, Tim, because he's obviously a very impressive. Yeah, exactly. And who else would there be?
Do you remember when Bruce Robb and Lauren Coulthard turned up late to Gordon Castle Highland Games, which is our first games of the season in May, and Lauren literally joined in the second round of the hammer.
Yeah, came out through 135 or something.
135, yeah, with no warm up. I think he must have only been about I don't know, 21.
Yeah. No, I mean, some of that full rotation that's Lauren's done.
Yeah. Lawrence switched to the full
50s.
rotation on the stone.
Well, that's obviously very impressive as well. His brother David, at that Horror Games, they had like a stone lift. And I don't know what David weighed at the time. I don't know, 13 stone, 14 stone. And he picked up all the stones. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 160 kilos, the last stone. And he picked it up. He was struggling a bit, but he picked it up no bother. I didn't even look at it.
Nah, he's just got that kind of wiry farmer strength, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Man strength.
I mean, John, we'd also mentioned previously that you've done a bit of travelling with the games and that. Have you got any favourite games or a sort of top three that you can pinpoint? Like, I know you've been to Japan, you've been to New Zealand. I assume they feature, and obviously recently you had the trip to Florida with some of the brightest personalities in Highland Games.
I definitely. So obviously that's a highlight, but obviously I hurt my back when I was over there, so it wasn't a very highlight of a throwing experience. But as a trip, it was very good.
Did you get the back?
I got the back in the middle of the game. So,
so Kyle, for the last 10 years, every couple of months, either John or myself will usually get the back, and we don't really know what it is. It's probably a bulging disc. It sounds like a very similar injury. So the back just means you can hardly get out of your bed because you've got the back.
Do you guys take turns, or is it a rota?
I think I've got it mostly, so I think it's my turn most of the time, and then Sinclair thinks he's clear of it, and then I pass it on again.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it now. I tried deadlifting last week.
It's just this little tweak that you feel, and then you think, oh no, and then it's all right for a wee while, and then just everything shuts down and cramps up.
It can get really bad for me. Like I don't know what it is, to be honest, but it goes right through into my groin, and I think I'm fine, and then I'll get into the car and it'll spasm, and I'm done. But luckily, I've not had it badly for a while. I do think deadlifts trigger it, so I'm trying to maybe stay away from those.
There's back to talking about games instead of sore backs. There's a lot of the brilliant, like Waipu's obviously great games that myself and Kyle were invited to, but unfortunately with the COVID-19 situation has been cancelled.
You're probably lucky because Tom Walsh would have been jarring you and calling him a normal-looking guy.
To be fair, so that's what else? That Pyroa in New Zealand as well is a good games. That game's over in Minnesota. Myself and Craig Sinclair went over to it.
Is that the same one, John?
Yeah, we went over in 2007.
Oh, okay. Aye. Yeah.
But I mean,
that is a good. And was that the same? So we've talked about him a few times now, but was that Kevin?
No, it was Ryan and Francis that organised it. And
okay, right. So it's obviously switched hands a few times, that game.
And Jeff Bryan, he was a nice guy. He kind of showed us about as well. I don't know what happened, but yeah, so that was good. So there was Dan McKim that was there, and Bert Soren, Mike Pekoski.
Some good throwers,
Yeah, good throwers there. So I think
Bert Soren, he wasn't too heavy, was he? He was a really good athlete, and he was throwing far at that time.
He won it, I think. Yeah, he definitely won it.
Did he?
Yeah.
Those guys must have gone professional just after that. Bert Soren, Dan McKim, Mike Pekoski, and they all went on to kind of. I mean, they were the top throwers in the world at one stage.
Yeah.
In terms of a games lineup, I recognise just about every name you've just said. So it must have been a hell of a competition, John.
Yeah, especially for me, because I was, I wasn't throwing nothing like them, so it was probably the worst display from a Scot ever, but I still enjoyed the trip though. So, it was really good, and that again gave me confidence to go and push on, sort of thing, because you could see what the goal was and what was available, more trips like that, and so yeah.
What about Scottish games, John?
Well, I wrote that down. Ballater is one of my favourite. Blair Athol.
Oh yeah,
That's a good games.
That
They're
cannon
both good
push.
games. Inverness. See, mind Inverness when it was in the Northern Meeting Park.
yeah, I love that. Yeah,
That was really good. And there's loads of good Scottish games.
What do you think makes a Scottish games?
I think you've got to have there's a crowd, all the different things going on. A good announcer makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's the difference between the crowd being informed and obviously not being informed. It makes it adds to the atmosphere as well.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think some of the commentators do a great job. I think top of my mind, Robert Lovey's pretty good with the Glenfiddich games. He keeps the crowd informed, and he's pretty personable. There's lots of different types. So down south, more of the strongman type stuff. You've got Andy Kearney, and he's more of a joker, but definitely keeps the crowd entertained. Alan Pettigrew, I've heard.
He's
on
good.
The mic.
Yeah.
He's quite good. Pete Hart's actually very good on the mic for the heavy events, especially.
Yeah. We get Pete every year at Ascent.
Yeah.
Like hearing Pete talk.
Yeah, Pete is good. Yeah, just thinking of that New Zealand link again. Who was it you were heading over through? Was it Pat Hellier?
Well, I was actually going over on a. So the first time I went was on a holiday myself.
Yeah.
Just went to stayed with relatives for 6 weeks, and I had a tour around a bit as well. And then the second time I went on I had a year out. So myself and my wife Darcy went over. So we were there for worked on a dairy farm down in the South Island. So
you've thrown there twice.
Yeah.
Cool. And Pat's wife not the national shot put or throws coach?
Yeah, she was at the time. The last time I spoke to Pat, he said she wasn't doing so much coaching.
Okay.
But yeah, she coached Valerie Adams to several Olympic golds, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Was she not coaching Jack O'Gill as well?
Yeah, and I think she was was she an Olympian herself with the javelin?
Right.
I think.
Yeah,
definitely the Commonwealth Games. I think she was at Olympics as well, so obviously a good bit of knowledge there. And then Pat was obviously countless times New Zealand champion and came over here and threw very well. So so I was good hooking up with Pat and Craig Reid, he came over as well.
I remember Craig.
We went and stayed over in Australia, and he looked after us very well. So we were supposed to be in the game zone, but it got cancelled. But he said we were going to not bother going over. But he says, no, come over, and I couldn't have looked after us better. So that was good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good wee link there with New Zealand. But coming back to the topic, I think commentators can definitely sort of make or break a Highland Games. Not so much for the athletes, but certainly for the crowd.
I think
definitely.
Weather's also something that has to get an honourable mention. There's nothing worse than a wet, dreary games.
Well, there is, Kyle. A midgie games.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that. The only time that you don't want the heat.
What's the nighttime games? Is it is it Kenmore?
Kenmore, yeah.
Kenmore is the worst for midges.
I go for a skin so soft bath before I head there, and that just keeps them away.
Do you think that so in Scotland we've got what do you call it? It's like a mail order catalogue, isn't it? Called Avon. And they sell a moisturiser product called Skin So Soft, and it's supposed to work for midges, but I don't find it works. Do you think it does?
I don't think it does.
I have to say, any cream that's dual purpose, so it makes me look fabulous and it keeps the midges away, it's a no-brainer for me.
Where did that joke come from? Your dad sells Avon.
I like to think there's an origin story where someone's dad actually did sell Avon, but I'm honestly not sure.
I love that that's an insult. It
There's
cracks
like
me
a
up every
DJ
time I see
remix
it.
of it as well.
Your dad sells Avon. But he's been so soft.
John, perhaps getting back on topic here. Where where do you think the sport of Highland Games and to be specific, the heavy events, where do you think the future's going with it? What do you think lies in wait?
I don't know. I think getting through this next year is going to be tough going. Obviously, they've all been cancelled this year. Is there going to be games that had to put out money already that they can't get back? I know Ascent, local games that I'm on the committee for, they left it as long as possible to cancel and then ended up having to cancel. And I don't think they have to put out much money or anything, but I'm not so sure about their games at the start of the year. So I think next year's going to be a case of seeing what games are still around and kind of supporting them as best as can. A lot of games are struggling for committee members just now. So it's worth people getting involved with their local committee. Just because, I mean, I certainly, not heavily involved with my committee, but I do what I can. And they had a problem one year with they were going to have to cancel the games because they couldn't get a pipe band because the World Pipe Band Championships was on the next day. So, I mean, I think I phoned around about every pipe band going, and Bill Barkley from Towie Pipe Band eventually managed to help us out. So that saved the games because they weren't going to have a games that year. So there's definitely things you can do, to help.
Do you think, John, there's anything that can be done centrally? So obviously on every committee there's some really dedicated, great people that make sure the games run from one year to another. At times, I think, not just in Highland Games and in lots of different aspects throughout Scotland, we work individually too much. Sometimes as athletes as well. But do you think there's anything we could do to help games, plan or committee wise, or is there anything that we as heavyweight athletes could do to support them?
I don't know. I'm not sure what. I'm not. All games are different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Geographically, they're in different places throughout so it's better. I think obviously just continue to support the games by going along to them, and obviously being polite and everything to the committee members. That makes a big difference. Guys helping on the field.
The only thing I can think of that stands out is, there's maybe 3 or 4 weekends a year where you've got 4, 5, 6 games on the same day. The only thing I think could really help is on those days if people sort of say, I'm going here, and it is actually where they're going. Because, the last thing a games want is, no heavies or, locals turning up or,
Yeah, I can see it from both sides. And again, I work with committees a lot through my my work with Scottish Rugby, and you don't ever want to patronise people, because like I said, often people who sit on committees, that's absolutely a hobby for them, and it's far from the first thing on their minds. It's something that they run in the summer, although they do give up a huge amount of time. I think a wee bit of support probably centrally could help them, and I'm not sure where that might come through. But when it comes down to the next generation, it's likely going to be Scottish athletes, and I think that's something we need to remember as well. So although it's great having visitors come and participate in the Scottish Highland Games, they're not going to be coming back when they're 50, 60, 70 to sit on committees, whereas we potentially are. So that's probably something that Highland Games need to recognise and actively pursue is that, okay, we're actually the ones that might give back to the sport. And foreign athletes may do that in their own countries, but it's very unlikely they're going to come and do it in Scotland.
I think that's a fair point that I've never even considered.
Yeah. I think you've
not having a rant, but I was just,
I think you've rounded up quite well there, Sinclair.
I was having a chat with Pete Hart, who we've already mentioned. Pete moved here from New Zealand as a rugby player and has got into the heavy events. But we had quite a good discussion on that, and we'll probably look to get Pete on the podcast at some point in the future, because I think he's got quite an interesting story and background. But he's also got opinions on how games should be run, and is active on a number of committees as well. So it'd be good to chat to Pete at some stage.
Yeah, Pete does a lot for the games. He's coaching a number of youngsters as well. So
he is. Yeah, he's got a good group of I think about 6 or 7 young throwers. So that's good to see as well.
I think Pete's also one of the most consistently happy men I've ever met in my entire life.
He's maybe, I don't know if happy is the word. He's definitely to the point.
Jovial. But I guess moving on, John. What do you think lies in John Hugh MacLeod's future within the heavy events in the Highland Games?
Just hopefully get through this lockdown period and get back to kind of was training for going to New Zealand, and then when that got kind of cancelled, I kind of taken the foot off the gas. So look to get back training, get fit for next season. So hopefully there is a season next year. We don't, obviously, with this virus going on just now, we don't know what's going to really happen.
We need to get a training pad laid, John.
Aye, definitely. We need to find a place first.
Well, exactly. John's moved from Aberdeen up to Inverness, so he's only 5 minutes away from me. But we've only managed maybe 3 or 4 sessions at random bits of concrete. So we're hoping to find a field that we can lay a concrete pad in somewhere.
I mean, as throwers, at some points you end up feeling like you're some sort of dogger that just goes around the country looking for bits of concrete you can set up shop.
I know. I'm always looking. Darcy's like, "Oh, what are you doing, eh?" I'm like, "I'm just looking for a bit of throw."
That's with the whole lockdown thing. Myself and Amy, we've been walking Gus around our local area, and we're going places where we maybe normally wouldn't, just because we've got the time. And I'll be like, "Oh, there's a field. I wonder who owns that. I wonder if I could maybe get in touch with them." Or
there's a
car
good
park
point
there with
too.
a bit of grass next to it, and there's all these thoughts that do go through your mind.
Kyle, they'll be getting in touch with you once you become Netflix famous. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Not really. No, it's one of these things. Whenever you get an extensive bit of filming done on yourself as like a, let's use the word in quotations, athlete, you don't get to see the edited finished product, so you have no idea what light they're going to shine you in. You can make us look like the all conquering hero, or you can get made to look to make like a bit of a fool. So
but there's
character assassination.
There's what's the documentary going to be called? Home Game, is it?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be called Home Game or Home Games, and it's basically a series of sports that are perhaps a little bit more obscure or unknown in the world, and it's basically just shining a highlight on them. So there's a whole load of sports. There's some deep sea free diving that they're going to cover. There's an Italian sort of sport which I can only describe as football crossed over with rugby, crossed over with wrestling, crossed over with boxing. I forget the name off the top of my head. Somewhat ironically, they're covering the sport of it's basically dead goat polo. So when I was in Kyrgyzstan in 2018, we actually went to watch a game. And it's called Coq Peru. Probably saying that wrong. But they literally just cut the head off a goat and they play polo on horseback with 2 goals. And instead of a polo ball and, hitting it, it's like passed around the horses and they just wrestle each other for this dead goat. There's also going to be a roller derby episode, which I'm sure will be very interesting. And there's a whole variety of sports that aren't even jumping to mind. So yeah, that comes out on the 26th of June. If anyone's interested, I'm sure we could probably do a little snippet episode just talking about that and what it was like.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll be interesting. They followed us extensively for about a week, sort of with the grand occasion being the Braemar Games. Myself and Jamie Dawkins kind of featured in it with a lot of cameos and interviews from others. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
Definitely, no. That's going to be cool. I don't think there's ever been anything on that sort of scale. Netflix is kind of worldwide, so it'd be cool to get a bit of exposure for the games and for you to become an online influencer.
Please never ever use that phrase again. But John, I suppose the one finishing off point is from you starting the games as a wee young laddie. What do you think has changed in the general makeup of the games and the heavy events from then till now?
Well, there's obviously a lot more safety measures now. There's a lot, hammer nets and that kind of thing. There's also, I don't know how to put this. There's less kind of enforcers on the go. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like a Roy Keane figure.
Aye, we're not hard enough.
Exactly. Aye, I think.
Yeah.
You look at the previous ones that you've had. You wouldn't. If there's any nonsense going on, they would have put a stop to it pretty quickly. But there's not really that now. Yeah, is that fair to say? I
think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think even chatting to my dad about when he was throwing, I think he'll see things occasionally on the field now and he'll be like, never got away with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a fair point.
I think I don't know, it's maybe got something to do with the modern culture of not wanting to upset anyone or sort of throw a spanner in the works. But sometimes if you see something and it's a dick move, you need to just say that's a dick move. Or if you see something that's happened or going on and it's not right, then you kind of need to just call it out rather than pussyfoot about it.
It's all about your moral compass, Kyle.
Correct. And some people can't find that magnetic north.
But no, I'd agree with that. Is this you?
What do you guys think?
You publicly saying that you're going to become an enforcer, John?
I don't think you can go and put 40 foot and then start telling anyone what to do. So,
maybe if we add all our throws together
and gang up. No, it's just like the way it's changed, sort of thing. It's I suppose it's the same in all sports. There's not really the same that kind of thing about it.
Yeah, no, I don't
know. I don't know. Is rugby the same?
No, people are obviously. I think times have changed, and people tend to be. I don't think people have necessarily changed.
Yeah.
I don't. I think at times that's definitely a bad thing. Other times it's not. So yeah, I think it's a fair point that you make, and whether or not that should change, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but yeah, it's definitely a fair point, I would say.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say, what do you guys think about the whole social distancing thing with this COVID-19? Do you think that's going to affect games moving forward, or do you think it's just going to kind of go away and we can just get on with it next year?
I'd like to hope desperately that by the start of game season next year, so you're talking, end of April, sort of May time, I'd like to think things are going to be as close to back to normal as we can imagine, and I'd like to think it's not going to be a lingering after effect. But honestly, the way it's been recently, you can't really predict anything, can you? You can only cross your fingers and hope that it doesn't end up like that. I mean, I don't think you could have a games running with social distancing in place. Like, the crowd sits so close together. There's just, beverages being partaken, food being eaten, and you probably couldn't really do that at games if you were having some of the measures in place that we currently have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's and if it's all right if it's a nice day and then people can get their beer and then go into the field, but if it's raining, most people just go straight to the beer tent, and then that's your that's a major income for the games as well, apart from the gate money, which if you have social distancing, you can't have as many people through the gate. But I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that and get back to normal fairly soon. But I think it's something that the committees are worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I told you I was sort of hopelessly optimistic that we'd maybe have a games in, the end of August, September. But I mean, I don't know if even most people are going to be back to full time working by then. I know there's sort of our furlough scheme is going to get sort of put into maybe part time coverage. So, I mean, it's a weird time, and I don't think this has ever happened before. It's just unprecedented, really.
I think the most frustrating thing is, so John, you obviously work for SSE, but so you've been working through, whereas Kyle and myself have been off for over a month now.
Men of leisure.
So we've got plenty of time to train, which is pretty frustrating because you're feeling like you can throw far, and then I'm terrible for getting distracted and saying, I'm going to do strongman, I'm going to do rugby, I'm going to do, whereas I need to just focus, shut my mouth and focus on Highland Games. So I think that's what I'm going to do from now on. But yeah, definitely a frustrating time, and I think that's again why we've tried to get the podcast up and running.
Yeah, well, I think it's good. A good way of keeping the games relevant in everyone's life. People listening to this might get these episodes might think forgetting about the games, and then they think, I need to get back training, and it's good. I mean, talking about work, when I'm travelling to sites throughout kind of the north of Scotland, I put podcasts on all the time, so it's handy just to have on, and then you can takes the kind of monotony out of the journey.
Yeah, no, definitely. I listen to them in the car for work as well. But hopefully we'll be able to kind of reach out to some new people as well. And we've said it nearly every episode, but if anyone is interested in getting into the Highland Games, and specifically the kind of heavy events, just get in touch with any of us, and I'm sure we'd be happy to kind of steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a few people reach out to me, and I mean, I told you what I did with Chris. I basically say for 4 weeks, just go out and get some reps throwing, and that'll pretty quickly tell you how dedicated or interested people are if they sort of stick that out. I don't know about you guys, but I've had people over the last, say, 10 years talk to me about throwing, and there's some people you put a bit of effort in, you maybe give them a bit of equipment, and then you don't hear from them again. So it gets to a point where you basically think, sod that, and it's almost like approving yourself, if that makes sense.
Well, there's never been an easier time to pick up techniques. YouTube's full of videos. You can, everybody that's a thrower is pretty much on Facebook. So all you have to do is, speak to one, and then you can find out, get some technique advice or whatever.
I tell you, John, one thing you've mentioned that didn't even occur to me is we've talked about the future of the games and getting new throwers in. I feel like a novice category ran in the morning could be a great addition to any games, even if it's only a handful of events. I know you said that up your way there's a few of them, but it could be an interesting thing to trial or run down here.
Yeah, definitely, but they don't seem to be that well attended now. I don't know why that is. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, I competed in they called it the novice at Invercarron. I think it was like 2013 or 2014, and I won it. And then I remember myself and Jamie Gunn were just young lads at the time, and I think there was a point between us, and I almost got to the point where none of us wanted to lose because they told us that whoever won it wouldn't be in it the next year.
So, and then you've got the under 25s, and there wasn't that many last year, was there?
Yeah, I think they averaged like 3 throwers a games, which isn't good for the future,
No.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just people getting into the sport don't know about it, or people who aren't getting into it. Sorry, we need a bit more publicity. I know that SHGA have been doing a really good job of trying to get events out there and publicise open days and things like that, and we probably just need more Highland Games to buy into that, and whether we could look to link up with some local athletics clubs or things like that, because there's so many talented throwers come through and they hit maybe 21, 22, and they don't really want to be travelling 3 or 4 hours to take 3 throws anymore. So they're the ones that we need to target, whether it be male or female, to get them into the Highland Games. And we've said it before, you don't need to start when you're 14, 15. If you can come in at sort of early 20s or even mid to late 20s for Highland Games, you've still got time to progress. So I think teaming up with some athletics clubs would be really positive for the heavy events, probably for the athletics side too.
Yeah, you can get your cross-code throwers.
I think it's a good idea if people doing different sports and not necessarily saying, well, I'm 15, I want to do the Highland Games. Go try other sports. That all correlates well. If you can do one thing, likely that you can do another sport, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's especially when you're young. You need to focus on a range of sports rather than just trying to become a Highland Games professional, because realistically, there's not much in it.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention. I don't know. Have you ever seen Hamish's technique in doing the 28?
I knew Hamish was going to come up.
We almost made it for a second episode without even mentioning the man's name.
Well, no, that's what I was conscious of, so I thought I would get it in there.
We'll finish up with Hamish then. I have seen his 28 technique. Yeah, I can't fully remember. Is it like what Spencer Tyler does now?
Nah, I can't. I've had it described to me, and I think it's on that film that he did with Jeff Capes. What was it?
I think he maybe did a full 360 on his first turn, did he?
It's something like that.
I think that's what he did. I think he started as if you were going into your drive phase, but he did a full 360. But there's another guy, Carl Dodge, Quadzilla, he used to get called. And he did 3 turns, and he threw over 90 foot.
Wow.
Yeah, you got to be so strong to block that for the front, though.
Massively, but that's why he was Quadzilla.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Hamish, it might work for some people, but I certainly think for starting out, you just go with the most basic technique you can, and then now's probably a good time for us to be working on things like that.
Well, I think Kyle. You often see Kyle warming up that one turn. I think that's a good way of solidifying that technique.
Yeah, well, the one turn for me, it's quite new. Like, I know a lot of the Americans have done it for a long time, but for me, the one turn's quite a new thing. I used to do it a wee bit when I was throwing the discus, like a run it, but for throwing the weight, I used to do one turns, but start face the front, which doesn't make much sense. Whereas when you turn side on and do the one turn from that sort of drive position, it seems to convert quite nicely then into the full throw.
I mean, is it not just a simple, the simple phrase "learn to walk before you can run"? Though, like, why pick up a 28 and try and do 2 turns and throw it as fast as you can, as technically sound as you can, when you can't do a 1 turn properly? It's completely alien to me. It's like when you see people on the hammer who are brand new to the sport, they immediately get hammer boots and then they start throwing. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're gonna make it more difficult for yourself than if you learn to throw without first.
Do you think if you only learn to run, then you can't walk?
I believe so. You'd just be sprinting everywhere, flat out.
I'm just thinking though, because my 1 turns aren't very good, and I never used to do them. Like I said, I did a lot of line drills and full throws. But yeah, I think I definitely need to break mine down. That's why I'm so svelte. I just run everywhere.
What weight are you now, Sinclair?
I don't know, John. Don't know. I've dropped a fair bit. I think I'll be in the range of like 129, 130.
That next season, Sinky's going to go for a new approach, and instead of talking about trying strongman or rugby, he's going to do bodybuilding.
Oh, that would be impressive.
Got the speedos already.
But yeah, John, thank you for coming on for episode 8. I really appreciate you coming on for a chat, and it's always good even just catching up.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll hopefully get another episode out in the next week or so. And yeah, if anyone is interested, there's going to be a TV series called Home Games on Netflix. I believe it airs the 26th of June, and it's basically just about the journey to Braemar. And there's some like incredibly awkward scenes of like me and Amy cooking in the kitchen that I hope didn't make the edit. But we'll only need to wait and see.
Looking forward to it, Kyle. Thanks, John. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.